This might be the biggest weather story in California this week, and it's not even close. A brutal building heat wave is about to slam Southern California. Extreme heat warnings are already posted from the deserts to the inland valleys. Death Valley is flirting with 125 degrees. And on top of all that, we've got a weakening Category 1 hurricane spinning in the Pacific, a second tropical system lurking near Hawaii, and dangerous surf building along our coastline. There is a lot to get through today, so let's not waste any time. But before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now and tell me two things: where you're watching from and what the weather actually looks like outside your window at this exact moment. Sunny? Smoky? Sweating already? I read every single one of these, and it genuinely helps me paint a better picture of what's happening across the state in real time. So go ahead, comment now, and let's get into today's forecast. All right, let's zoom out first because there is one dominant theme driving basically everything we're going to talk about today, and that theme is heat. A strong ridge of high pressure is building over the western United States, and it is going to park itself right over California through the weekend and into the early part of next week. When we talk about a ridge, think of it like a dome, a big bubble of sinking, compressing air that traps heat underneath it, blocks out any chance of clouds or storms, and just lets temperatures climb day after day. That's exactly what's setting up right now, and it's why we're not looking at a one-day spike, we're looking at a multi-day extended heat event. According to the National Weather Service, seasonably warm conditions are set to shift into dangerously hot territory by Friday, and that danger is expected to persist right through the weekend. And here's the part that really matters for planning purposes. This isn't going away fast. Current guidance shows the heat holding on into early next week, and there are already signals that elevated temperatures could linger out through the extended 10-day outlook. So if you were hoping this was a quick 24-hour blip, I want to be upfront with you. It's not. Let's get specific because the impacts are not going to be uniform across the state. Extreme heat warnings and heat advisories are already in effect, and they are heavily concentrated across inland Southern California. That includes the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, and Riverside County valleys, along with the deserts and interior sections stretching from the Central Coast down through San Diego County's inland valleys. Some of these warnings kicked in as early as Wednesday night and are expected to run through the weekend, with a few extending into early next week before conditions ease. Here's a rough sense of what people in those inland zones are looking at. Widely, we're talking mid-90s to as high as 105 degrees for afternoon highs across many inland communities, with the most intense heat risk landing Friday through Sunday. That's squarely in the dangerous category, especially for anyone without reliable air conditioning, anyone working outdoors, older adults, young children, and pets. Now, if you're along the coast, your story looks completely different. Coastal Southern California is going to hold on to a noticeably cooler and more comfortable pattern, thanks to the marine influence and that natural buffer of cooler, moist air coming off the ocean. So if you live in a beach community, you might genuinely be confused when you hear dangerous heat wave on the news because your afternoon might only reach the mid-70s to low 80s. That's the split personality of Southern California weather in the summer, a 10, 15, sometimes 20-degree swing between the coast and areas just 20 or 30 miles inland. And then there's the desert. Death Valley, one of the hottest places on the planet, is expected to challenge 125 to 126 degrees over the weekend. Let that sink in for a second. That's not a typo. That's genuinely one of the highest readings you'll see reported anywhere in the world this week, and it's a stark reminder of just how intense this ridge of high pressure really is. Let's shift gears and talk Northern California for a moment, because the heat story up there, while still present, is playing out a little differently. Much of Northern California is seeing mostly sunny skies right now, without the thick marine layer that's blanketing parts of the south. That means less cloud cover to keep morning temperatures in check, but it also means a cleaner, brighter stretch of weather for outdoor activities if you're not in one of the hotter interior zones like the Sacramento Valley or the San Joaquin Valley, where heat can build just as intensely as it does in the Southland. Meanwhile, down in Southern California, we've actually got a decent marine layer sitting over parts of the coast and adjacent valleys right now. That low gray cloud deck that tends to burn off by midday Enjoy that marine layer while you've got it, honestly, because as the heat wave ramps up Friday into the weekend, an increasing offshore wind component will likely erode a lot of that cooling influence, especially the further inland you go. Now let's talk about what is not happening, and that's rain. If you're hoping for any relief from a passing shower, I've got bad news. There is no significant rainfall expected anywhere in California for at least the next several days. Every major forecast model is in agreement here. We're looking at dry conditions holding firm through at least the next 6 days, with essentially nothing on the radar to interrupt the heat. There is one small wrinkle worth mentioning, though. There's a slight chance that monsoonal moisture could return to the desert sometime next week, which could spark a few isolated thunderstorms across the far eastern deserts and higher terrain. But I want to be really clear about the word slight here. This is not a guarantee. And even if it verifies, it would likely be spotty, hit or miss activity rather than any kind of widespread relief. So for the vast majority of the state, plan on dry and plan on hot. Let's swing over to the tropics now, because there's actually a lot of activity out there in the Pacific, even though none of it is a direct threat to California. As of this week, Hurricane Genevieve, which briefly spun up to a powerful Category 5 storm over the open eastern Pacific, has been steadily weakening. Genevieve is currently down to Category 1 strength as it churns over open water well off the coast of Mexico, and it's expected to continue losing wind intensity, likely dropping to tropical storm status by this weekend as it moves over progressively cooler ocean water. Importantly, it has posed no direct threat to land throughout its life cycle, and there are currently no coastal watches or warnings in effect connected to it. At the same time, there's a second tropical system out near Hawaii that meteorologists have been watching, and that system is also in a weakening trend. Neither of these systems is expected to have any direct impact on California or the broader southwestern United States. That said, there's a broader pattern worth flagging. This has been an unusually active stretch in the Pacific Basin overall, with a strengthening El Niño helping fuel warmer than normal sea surface temperatures across a wide swath of the eastern and central Pacific, so the kind of environment that tends to support more frequent and more intense tropical development. So while nothing currently poses a direct threat to us, it's a pattern we'll want to keep watching as we move deeper into the season. If you're planning a beach day this weekend, listen closely, because this is one of the more dangerous parts of today's forecast. Hazardous beach conditions are expected to continue right through the weekend, driven by a combination of large southern hemisphere swells and some lingering energy from tropical activity out in the Pacific. In practical terms, that means elevated surf, powerful shore break, and, most importantly, a significantly increased risk of strong rip currents. A high surf advisory is in effect for much of the coast, with forecasters calling for roughly 4 to 8 foot surf in the more exposed spots. This is especially relevant along Southern California beaches, where the combination of swell direction and coastal geography can really amplify rip current danger, even on days that look calm and sunny from the sand. So here's the practical advice. If you're heading to the beach this weekend, please swim near a lifeguard tower, pay attention to posted flags and warnings, and if you do get caught in a rip current, don't try to swim directly against it. Swim parallel to shore until you're out of the current's pull, then angle back in. It sounds simple, but it saves lives every single year. And with conditions like these, lifeguards up and down the coast are going to be busy. Let's talk smoke and air quality, because this is a story that's happening more outside California than in it, but it's still worth understanding. Right now, air quality across most of California remains relatively good, which honestly is a bit of a relief given how active fire season has been elsewhere in North America. Major wildfires burning in Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia are producing heavy smoke, and that smoke has been drifting and impacting air quality across other parts of the continent. For now, California is largely being spared the brunt of that smoke impact, thanks to the current wind and pressure pattern keeping most of it funneled away from our state. But I want to add a note of caution here that isn't just about today's forecast, with dangerously hot, dry conditions building across California's interior over the coming days. Fire weather risk locally is also something to watch closely. Hot, dry air combined with any wind event can rapidly elevate fire danger. So even though our skies are clean right now, that's a fluid situation, not a permanent one. We'll keep tracking any changes and let you know if that smoke picture shifts. One more piece of the puzzle before we wrap up, and it's a bit more forward-looking. Ocean temperatures off our coast and across a wide stretch of the Pacific are running warmer than normal right now, which lines up with what forecasters are describing as a strengthening El Niño pattern. Now, to be clear, this isn't an immediate concern for California. We're not looking at any tropical development anywhere close to our coastline, but it is a factor worth keeping an eye on. Warmer coastal waters can act like fuel, extra energy available to strengthen any tropical system that might, at some point down the road, track closer to the southwestern coast. Historically, direct tropical impacts on California are rare because of how quickly storms weaken over cooler water as they move north, but a warmer than normal ocean shifts those odds slightly, and it's exactly the kind of long-range signal meteorologists like to flag early, even when there's nothing actionable about it today. So let's pull it all together and look ahead. Over the next few days, expect building heat, especially inland, with the most intense stretch landing Friday through Sunday. Interior valleys and deserts will see the highest readings, with Death Valley pushing toward the 125 to 126 degree range, and inland Southern California widely running 90s to around 105. Coastal areas will stay meaningfully cooler thanks to the marine layer, though even coastal high temperatures may creep up a few degrees as the pattern peaks. Early next week, guidance currently suggests the heat holds fairly steady before any real moderation begins, and there's growing chatter about the potential for elevated temperatures to persist out through the full 10-day forecast window. Rain remains off the table for essentially the entire period, aside from that slight and I want to stress slight chance of isolated monsoonal thunderstorms returning to the far eastern desert sometime next week. On the coast, keep an eye on that surf and rip current risk through the weekend. And if you're near the shoreline, respect the ocean. It's more dangerous than it looks right now. And in the tropics, both Genevieve and the system near Hawaii should continue their weakening trends, with neither expected to affect California directly. So here's the bottom line. This is a heat story first and foremost, and it's a serious one. If you're inland, take it seriously, stay hydrated, check in on elderly neighbors and family members, never leave kids or pets in a parked car even for a few minutes, and try to limit strenuous outdoor activity to the early morning or evening hours when temperatures are more manageable. If you're near the coast, enjoy the milder temperatures, but stay cautious in the water given the elevated surf and rip current risk. I'll be back with updates as this heat wave evolves and as we track whatever comes next in the tropics. Until then, drop your location and your current conditions in the comments if you haven't already. Give this video a like if it helped you plan your week, and I'll see you in the next update. Stay cool out there, California.